everyone, and welcome to another episode of Little Give. I cannot wait for you to meet our guest. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're all about.
Hi, I am Maria C. Palmer, and I am a nonprofit grant writer and also the author of the best-selling book On the Rocks, The Prima Donna Story, which is about the rise and fall of my famous restaurateur father through the 80s through the early 2000s. And I'm so excited to be on Little Give because I really do believe that every small act that we do can make a really large impact on somebody's life. So this is right up my alley. So thank you so much, Cindy, for inviting me onto your show.
And we're also excited to have you because we know you're the perfect guest for this show. So let's unpack your story a little bit. Tell us kind of how everything started.
Sure, absolutely. So I grew up in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, which is a small suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my dad, very early on, whenever I was 4 years old, he worked as a postal worker and he had this dream of opening a world-class restaurant. But he really didn't have the money to back that dream. So he bought a failing business in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, which is really not a place that you would ever want to stop if you were coming to Pittsburgh. It would be a place that you sort of drive through, not a destination for anybody but the locals. And he opened up the Prima Donna restaurant on just basically a dream and put in a lot of sweat equity, had to learn the area, had to kind of work to make things happen. And at one point, we were America's hottest Italian restaurant in the country. And this was way before the days of Instagram and social media and YouTube and Yelp and, even MapQuest. You had to get to us basically using one of those old fashioned tip tricks from the AAA. So it was rare to have a restaurant outside of Pittsburgh be a nationally and internationally known restaurant. And everything was going fantastically well. And we had celebrities and sports stars and all different kinds of wonderful things happen. And then unfortunately, whenever I was 20 years old, I got a knock at my door, and it was the federal government looking for my father. Somebody had mentioned his name in a federal grand jury investigation. And that was probably one of the lowest points of my life, but a defining moment because I ended up moving 3,000 miles away because everybody knows whenever you have problems, if you hop on a plane, they don't come with you in your carry-on luggage, which couldn't be further from the truth, right? And I met this really wonderful, eclectic, amazing nun who had started a nonprofit called Get on the Bus to take children of incarcerated mothers at the time to visit their mothers. And I was so moved by her story that I actually started to fundraise from her with her and to tell my own story. Even though I was very private with my story at the time, I realized that if I told my story, I could have a larger impact on her organization. And she was part of my healing. And really, I eventually became the director of this program. And what I thought was going to happen is I thought that I was going to make this big impact on families of the incarcerated and be able to bring lots of children to visit their parents and reunite with their parents, which happened to a small extent, not necessarily because of me, but because of the wonderful volunteers that we had at the organization. But really what happened for me is an immense amount of healing. And the families taught me about not being shameful about something that happened that we necessarily can't control, and loving people unconditionally, even though humans have a certain amount of duality about them, right? They have really amazing, good qualities, and then some qualities that maybe we would rather not advertise to the world. So working through that and being able to have my own personal healing through my nonprofit journey, that's been a blessing. And the book ties into all of this because after my father got out of prison, one of the things that I noticed is a piece of him died when he got rid of the restaurant. And being a writer myself, I asked him questions like, Dad, tell me why you wanted to get into the restaurant and what was it like in those early days? And did you ever have to break up a bar fight? And who was the first celebrity that came into the restaurant and what did they order? And these questions became the backbone of what is now On the Rocks, the Prima Donna Story. And 17 years in the making, and a wonderful co-author who was my former AP English teacher, Ruthie Robbins. And the book was born. And it's been also a wonderful piece of healing, not only for me, but my entire family. So it is just, as I said, so great to be here with you, Cindy, and to tell this story as it comes full circle. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Justin Clark, and I'm the president of the board of directors for Driving Single Parents, a 501c3 nonprofit serving the citizens of San Antonio and Bexar County, Texas. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about the great work that our organization is doing for the citizens of San Antonio. What you're about to see is just a few photos and videos of the way that we're changing lives for single parents in and around San Antonio, Texas. Our first giveaway took place in April of 2017, just one short month after the formation of our organization. John, a Bexar County resident, was the victim of a horrible drunk driver incident. He and his daughter survived the crash, and we were so proud to give our first car to this deserving family. Fast forward to 2020, a very difficult year for nonprofits. We were able to secure 4 vehicles for single parents in need. Our organization, including our board of directors, list of partners, and portfolio of people we've been able to help in San Antonio, continues to grow, and it's all thanks to donors and local community organizations that have helped us along the way. This giveaway took place in 2021 and shows that we continue to help single parents even after the struggles brought about by COVID-19. Because of limited funds and the overwhelming need, we at Driving Single Parents are incredibly selective with the people we help. Some are victims of domestic violence. Others had a spouse pass away tragically, or otherwise fell on hard times. These single parents show adversity in the face of challenge and aren't looking for a handout. We offer a hand up and help get them back in the driver's seat. Many of the single parents we help go on to graduate college, get promotions, get married, mentor others, and some have even been so touched by the gift we gave them that they have decided to join our board of directors to pay it forward and ensure the continued growth of our organization. If you would like to help our organization continue to grow and continue to help single parents in need in San Antonio, Texas, and Bexar County, Texas, we would really appreciate your support. Please visit us online at www.drivingsingleparents.org. Thank you.
Of course. Well, I mean, so you kind of gave us a little bit of the backbones and all the things that kind of happened leading up to this, but not everybody just says, you know what, I'm just going to write a book about it. What gave you that idea?
Well, my dad always told me, even whenever I was a little girl, that somebody should write a book or do a movie on his own life's journey because he is such an interesting personality type, right? Like, there's a line that people use oftentimes, and it's, what would Jesus Christ do, right? And for a while, years back, there were popular bracelets that had the WW JC logo on it. And, my dad's name is Joe Costanzo. So it's funny because there's never a question of what decision or choice that my dad would make. And so whenever my writing partner, Ruthie, and I thought about this project and thought about telling my father's story, it became very easy and fun. And we thought that not only would this make a great family history project, which was the origination of, why I started talking to my dad at first, but this would make a very good commercial project because he is larger than life, a little eccentric, a little eclectic, but mostly a lot of fun. And it's, he's kind of an interesting character because he has these elements of his personality. For example, he's incredibly detail oriented whenever it comes to his restaurant and customer service and just delivering the highest level of personal service and making you feel like you're part of this amazing experience. But yet he's also not really a numbers or a great accounting person. So it's two parts of his personality that almost in a way completely oppose one another. And that's just one example. So that's what ignited the project. And I guess what kept it going was the fact that it was really my dad's wish and he always wanted it. And he was not in great health. And this was something that I could tell that he really wanted his final chapter, right, to be a book. And, as a daughter who is also a writer, I really wanted to make that happen for him because I didn't want his final chapter. Whenever you used to Google his name, the first thing that would come up is that he went to prison and he lost his restaurant. And I didn't want that to be his lasting legacy. He had done so many wonderful, amazing things, especially in the community of McKees Rocks for the residents of McKees Rocks and the greater economy. And, I wanted his legacy to be a little more truthful to the way that things once were, not to be remembered for a mistake that he made. And, that's really what fueled me to finish this book project, even though it took 17 years to do so.
So did you have the name On the Rocks picked out the entire time, or was that part of the process that took a little while?
So part of the process, I think at first we wanted to say From Rocks to Riches, but then after everything that sort of happened, it was almost a roller coaster, right? We started by going up and then hit this crescendo, and then he had this sharp fall down. So in a way, it is kind of a 3-part tragedy. And Rocks to Riches really wouldn't have been true to the storyline. And then I thought about Rocks to Riches and then back again. But again, that was kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel like it did the story justice. But On the Rocks is uniquely a triple entendre. So On the Rocks is obviously a drink, right? That's served over ice cubes. On the rocks could also mean that you are in a precarious or a sticky situation, which through some of the book, he is in precarious and very sticky situations, some to his own fault and some because of things that kind of happened to him that are a bit beyond his control. But also On the Rocks refers to McKees Rocks, which is a town of about 6,000 people just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we shorten the name, the people that are from that area, instead of saying, hey, I'm from McKees Rocks, you would say, I'm from the Rocks. So On the Rocks, quite interestingly enough, has been a very hot sell for Pittsburghers, especially those who have fled Pittsburgh and now live in California or Florida or even internationally, because it brings them closer to their home memories. And one of the opening chapters, per se, is called The Rocks, and it talks about small town America during the 1950s and 60s, and it's a flashback. And people who grew up in the Pittsburgh area are buying the book and enjoying it because of my dad's story, but really buying the book because they want to revisit their own childhood, which happens in that first opening preface chapter.
Wow, so interesting. I always love to hear that because I know it's so important. Like naming a book is like naming your baby. So
Yes.
it's really, really important. So I know that name had to have had some meaning to it. So thank you for sharing all that with us. So did your dad read the book?
Oh my gosh, yes.
What did he
read
think? Any critiques?
Yeah, he read it and he loved it. And, one of the things, whenever it's your story, you have this personal connection to it. And for a while, I think that this is why it took us 17 years. As I had kind of mentioned at the top of this interview, is that humans have a tremendous amount of duality that is just our nature, right? The really wonderful things about us, all of the reviews, the way that he was able to grow and scale his business, quite amazing and in a lot of ways impossible, especially before the age of social media. But it's also very hard as a human to talk about things that are tough and our darkest moments. And a lot of times, whenever something happens to us that we don't like or that causes us pain, what do? We run away from it. We don't talk about it. And so it was hard at first to get him to talk about what it was like to being mentioned in a federal grand jury investigation and what that was like firsthand, and going to prison and assimilating to that, and then coming back and losing the restaurant and all of the fantastic things that he had built and worked so hard for our family. And also, the certain amount of guilt and shame that we all felt as a result of everything that happened. So that was a particularly challenging thing for him to open up about. But once I explained to him that we can't change anything that's happened to us, and everything right now is Googleable, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
But what we can change is we can tell people why things happened, and we can have that power to take our own narrative back and write the why behind the what. And whenever I explained it to him in that way, he was much more open, and in a way he became almost too vulnerable, and just told us everything about his story. And the other thing that was hard is he wanted to, and naturally whenever you write a book, right, anybody that you've ever met in your life, you want to include them because they were an important part of the story. But as readers, you cannot have 500 pages and hundreds and hundreds of characters popping in and out of the story. So we had to simplify things. We had to, with the publisher, of course, pick the characters that shined the most, per se, and try to focus on them to draw them through their narration. That in a way made my dad a little sad, especially for the people that made the cutting room floor. That was hard for him, but just explaining it to how the reader perceives things, I think that he also was able to get that. But he loves the book. It's given him a second chance at life, really. He is excited about it. He goes on interviews with me regularly. He tours all around Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, because of some of his health challenges, he can't go too far out of our hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But he certainly makes his rounds. He was on a radio station in Europe a couple of months ago. And he's loving this. It's kind of given him that second passion in life that the restaurant once gave him. So to me, as a daughter and as a child, I think that is the biggest gift, is being able to give him this new, fresh outlook on life, and to be able to see, we were that family in the 80s and 90s that everybody wanted to be around. And then one day we weren't. And now we are again. And that to me is so cool to see whenever I go with him in public and he gets recognized, and people will come over and they'll say, "I loved your restaurant," or "I loved your book." And, they'll ask him for a picture or an autograph, or to meet their child. I mean, that to me is very cool. I don't care about it so much for myself, but it's really endearing to see it, especially for my father.
Hi, my name is Andrew Fraley, and I believe that sometimes We all need a little bit of help. If you're in the San Antonio community and you need some legal help, call me at 210-725-4658.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you next is how has this impacted you and your life and your journey?
Very well, very surprisingly. So I think I had shared before that this is an underdog story, right? About an underdog character, but this is also an underdog book. And I didn't know anything at all about the publishing industry, how anything worked. And so I thought you just wrote a book and put it on Amazon, and then all of a sudden people bought it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The publishing industry is very challenging, incredibly competitive, and there is no one path to publishing. There's not a right way to do it. I kind of learned as I went. So once we had a solid manuscript in the summer of 2020, I tried my best to polish it up as much as possible to start shopping it to agents. And we ended up meeting our agent on a virtual conference in the winter of 2021 after sending 265 query letters to agents, receiving over 140 straight out thanks but no thankses. Over 100 people completely ghosted us. I have no idea if they even have ever got our stuff. And 17 people said they would like to see a little bit more, and only one person said yes. And then whenever that one person said yes, we went out to publishers in the fall of 2021, and the same thing happened. And editors said to us, nobody who doesn't know your father, who's outside of Pittsburgh, will ever buy this book. You cannot stand up to Anthony Bourdain or to Stanley Tucci or to all the other restaurant greats on the shelf. You'll never make it. This will not be a bestseller. It will flop. We don't want to take it on. And whenever it finally got acquired by Kohler Books in October of 2022 for an August of 2023 release, I was lucky enough before the book ever released to be named in the LA Times as one of the top 15 authors on the rise to watch in 2023. We were lucky enough to have a partnership with the Heinz History Center, which is the Smithsonian affiliate history museum in downtown Pittsburgh. And they were 50-50 partners with us to help throw our launch party 2 days before the book came out. 500 people, invite only. And we also streamed it worldwide for people that weren't able to come. We've been on Forbes magazine. I've gotten a chance to meet Hoda Kotb, Food Network stars. We've revitalized the restaurant. We have a partnership with Jagoff Media and The Kitchen by Vanjura, which is a high-end countertop company in Irwin, PA. So we've actually reopened the restaurant twice a year, which is really fun. For 50 people, we have a 4-course tasting menu. I also do cooking books all around the country, which are Prima Donna inspired hands-on cooking classes and then book discussions. We host several book talks at libraries, companies, you name it. I'm actually going to be the spokesperson and the keynote speaker for the KeyBank Key for Women initiative in Pittsburgh in the fall, I think in October. So it has opened so many doors for us. Like as I had mentioned before, it's created this amazing path to healing for our entire family. And it's given us this new purpose, which is completely unexplained and unexpected. I just did this to really right the wrongs of, what happened with my dad and my dad's story. And what's actually happened is people have grasped on to that humanity and that vulnerability and they've elevated the story. And we've just had so many amazing opportunities, like even being on your show, Cindy. It's so cool. And, to think that this all happens from a book. And I always now tell my dad, if everything didn't happen the way that it did, if your story just went like this and kind of tipped up, tipped up, and never dipped down, you would never have this book, because people don't want to read about somebody or something that everything goes right for them, right? They want to read about a story that has a little bit of an edge to it, some adversity that people had to overcome. And that's how they connect to the characters. And that's exactly what this book has done for us.
I love it. I think it's so neat how one idea, to like start this book or write this book has turned into, or your dad's idea to start the restaurant, and then on to the book, and just all these, how one simple choice to do something can make such a big impact in so many different lives. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. It's so neat to see that you did this to like kind of carry on your dad's legacy and show, hey, there's more to the story. Let me show you. That's really cool. I love that. Now I'm going to move on to my little give questions.
Sure. Let's do it.
The first one is, can you give the audience an example of a little thing that they can do in their community that might just be a little give on their end, but might make a big impact on the other side?
Absolutely. So every community has nonprofits. And if you're not familiar with your community's nonprofits, make yourself familiar. And you can find these places. Even a local library is a nonprofit. Every community is attached to a food bank, a church or a synagogue or a mosque. Whatever you're passionate about, even I'm very passionate about the American Kidney Fund, because my dad is a 2-time transplant recipient. So find something that you are passionate about and tap into that. And, it might be giving. Maybe you can't give money at this particular time, so you can give your time. I do here in New Jersey once a month between September and June. I do a service night, and folks from all over can come and show up, and we make 60 sandwiches for the St. Paul's Men's Shelter in Paterson, which is the nonprofit that I write for right now. And then we enjoy a pizza dinner together. Some people are basically just counting cheese or ripping foils, but that all becomes into the greater good. And at the end of the day, we have 60 lunches that go down to the men's shelter that provide all of the men that are living with us with subsistence, so that they can take it with them to work, or if they are working on some soft skills at the shelter, they can grab a quick lunch there. Nourishment, very simple. I also run a holiday giving program that pairs families and children under 18 as a request of their parents with donors. That's, a wish list for the holidays. So buying a simple gift or a gift card, not only for, my organization, but for an organization that is local and passionate to you, you can make a big difference in somebody's life just doing something like that.
I could not agree more. Yes, give back to those nonprofits however you can. One of my favorite things to tell people is, if you can't do any of the things you just mentioned and you're on Facebook or Instagram, or wherever, share the content. Your nonprofit comes across your screen, just share it. If you don't have the money, you can't volunteer, just share it, because it may touch somebody who can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love your example of little give. So the second question is, can you give the audience an example of a time in your life where somebody did something little for you that might have just been, a little give on their end, but really made an impact on you and in your life?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back to the story that I talked about earlier, whenever I was at really the lowest point of my life, whenever I received that knock at the door, and it was the federal government asking where the whereabouts of my father. And I moved to LA, and I met that like spunky nun who really gave me the confidence to grow into what she already saw in me that I didn't see, because I was wounded, hurting, experiencing extreme depression and anxiety. And she gave me the ability to be able to tell my story to help other people. And that in itself helped me so much, because I would have never been open and honest with my own story, because again, it caused me shame, it caused me guilt, it caused me pain. And I was running away from those things. But knowing that I could tell my story and I could make an impact on her organization and be the conduit to bring children to see their mothers, some of who they hadn't seen between 7 and 14 years, that really struck a chord in my heart. That ignited a fire that was dead. It gave me a purpose and a reason to move on and move forward and be passionate for what was to come. And so in that way, and I do have to, I always joke with her to this day, because she said, you know, you can do this. It will be easy. It has not been easy at all. There are several stumbling blocks along the path of life, but what it has been is rewarding. So find yourself a mentor, a friend, a companion, somebody that believes in you wholeheartedly and that raises you up and that cheers for you whenever you even get those little wins in life, because that was, I think, the little give that she gave me that really changed my life and set a path for my life to make a larger impact in the nonprofit world. And so I'm so grateful to Sister Suzanne Jabro every day of my life. Just a wonderful person and a great woman. So that was the little give that she gave to me.
Perfect example. You know, like I said earlier, you just never know what it's going to be. What's that little thing that you're saying to someone, or you help someone, or like you said, you know, you borrowed her confidence in you for a little while till you gain the confidence in yourself. And you just never know what that conversation is going to be. So I always love these little give questions. So the third question I ask every guest that comes on this show is, are there any nonprofits that you're excited about? Do you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can kind of stay on the whole CRJW thing, the Center for Restorative Justice Works, and get on the bus. I was lucky enough to actually go to Los Angeles a month ago now, and I was part of a social justice panel with 2 other amazing individuals who told their story, one of which is the current executive director of CRJW, Liz Rios, who has this amazing story about her father going to prison whenever she was a young girl and experiencing all of those levels of pain and shame and almost wanting to protect her father whenever the federal government walked into her house and, found his underground drug operation. Really amazing people that are part of this organization. That's Sister Suzanne Jabro, by the way, that we're looking at right now, who is just the nun of fire, passion, grace, and love. And it's really her vision back in 1999 that has set the course for this. And I'm so excited because next year in 2025, Get on the Bus will be celebrating their 25th year anniversary, and we will all be getting together, having a large celebration for an organization that has had a tremendous impact, not only on me, but the lives of thousands of children, grandchildren all around the state of California and even out of state, because some people like myself have kind of moved on from those West Coast days. So very passionate about them, but there are certainly lots of other organizations, including St. Paul's Community Development Corporation, as I had mentioned, the American Kidney Fund. There's so many wonderful nonprofits out there. So find one that ignites you and give to them wholeheartedly in whatever way that you can. And even as Cindy said, just simple things like liking or sharing a post. You don't know who that's going to get the post in front of, who might even be able to help more than you can. So those little acts mean a really big thing to nonprofits.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that nonprofit with us. I haven't heard of that one yet. That's such a cool idea. I love it so much. Everything you shared with us today has been so much as far as like your family and what y'all went through and how your dad went up and then he went down, and not only that affect him, but all the family around him, including yourself, and then how y'all built up from there. And then you came up with this beautiful story. So I'm so glad you came on today and shared this with the audience. I know they're going to love it. Why don't you tell the audience where they can get to know more about you and your book and how they can get in touch?
Absolutely. So the easiest way is just to go to my website, mariacpalmer.com, and that has all of my links to social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Joe Costanzo Prima Donna. We're also on Twitter at Maria C. Palmer. I post all of my events. That's my website. If you go onto my events page, which is 3 tabs over right there, a list of all of my events will pop up. All of the upcoming events will be in the forefront. And then as you kind of scroll down, you'll find pictures and videos of all of our past events. So if, for example, you want to check out that 500-person, really cool, swanky opening party that we had at the Heinz History Center, I have some live stream video, and that's actually from that event right there. That's my dad in the center and the former Prima Donna employees. So there's lots of cool stuff on there, lots of interesting ideas. I had mentioned some of the cooking experiential events that we do. We also do book talks, both in person and online. I'm finding that it makes it really easy to meet and greet with folks online. And, oftentimes I've done one in Alpharetta, Georgia, in New York City, Florida, California, and people just gather their friends and family in their own homes and they stream us in to chat with them. And it makes for a really fun, interesting night if you're looking for something to do with your group of friends or family members. We'd love to be part of that experience for sure. So definitely do get in touch.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been so much fun getting to know you and your family and everything that you're about and what you've shared today. Anybody out there who's watching this, if you're passionate about anything she talked about today, reach out, find out more about what she's up to. I know there's a lot more great things that are to come in the future. And if you're passionate about the nonprofit she featured, go donate. $1 or $5 multiplied by the many people we have watching this show today can really make a huge impact on nonprofits around the world. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with the audience. We're grateful for you.
Thank you, Cindy. It has been my true pleasure. And thank you for all the ways that you are highlighting these wonderful things that are going on in our world. There needs to be more people like you. So thank you.
Aww. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. And I appreciate you spending your time with us today.
Of course.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Little Give. If you would like to learn more about how I highlight ordinary people doing extraordinary things to help others, or maybe you'd like to be a guest, or maybe you know a nonprofit that you would like to see featured on a future episode of Little Give, you can find all the information on our website at littlegive.com. If you'd like to get involved with our kindness clip segment, please do send in those videos. Send them via email to cindy@littlegive.com. Or you can tag us on any social media under Cindy Witteman or #LittleGive. If you'd like to know more about our podcast, you can also find us on all major streaming platforms under Little Give Podcast. Please do find our Facebook group under Little Give TV show and join it. We'd love to keep you up to date with future episodes. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to highlight the next ordinary person doing extraordinary things to help others. See you next time.